Good evening. Winter hasn't arrived yet here in Delhi, but on tonight's show, we want to look forward. So as spring arrives early next year, the question is, will the lotus bloom or will the jhadu sweep the elections? Delhi is most likely going to see polls in February and March. Welcome to the news tonight. I'm Zaka Jacob. These are the headlines. The countdown has already begun for the Delhi elections. Union Cabinet recommends the dissolution of the Assembly. BJP says Prime Minister Modi will be the face of its campaign. Protesters clash with security forces in Naugam area of Budgam district in Jammu and Kashmir. The army orders an inquiry into the deaths of two youths in a firing incident Monday. The government welcomes a Pentagon report which says Pakistan is waging a proxy war using terrorists to counter the superior Indian army. And it's Sachin Tendulkar versus Greg Chappell yet again. Chappell denies Tendulkar's claim that he offered him captaincy back in 2007 to replace Rahul Dravid. And our top story tonight. The Union Cabinet has approved the dissolution of the Delhi Assembly. This paves the way for polls to be held in the national capital sometime early next year. Soon after the news broke, all three major political parties in the state, that's the BJP, the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party, have already started preparing for those polls in right earnest.
The countdown has begun for assembly elections in Delhi. Hours after the Union Cabinet approved dissolution of the assembly, the three major political parties went into a huddle to formulate their strategy for the polls whenever they are held. The BJP has said it will contest elections under collective leadership without declaring a chief ministerial candidate.
हमारा कोई सीएम कैंडिडेट नहीं होगा। हम केवल जो जिस तरह से हरियाणा और महाराष्ट्र में हमने चुनाव लड़ा है उसी तर्ज पर उसी प्रयोग पर पार्टी चुनाव लड़ेगी।
दिल्ली इस बारे में तय करेगी कि चुनाव में अरविंद केजरीवाल को मुख्यमंत्री बनाना है या जगदीश मुखी को मुख्यमंत्री बनाना है।
The Aam Aadmi Party is not far behind with its preparations. The party is leaving out no opportunity to talk about its work during the 49 days it ruled Delhi.
49 दिन तक आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार चली। 49 दिन में खूब काम किए। भ्रष्टाचार लगभग खत्म किया दिल्ली के अंदर, महंगाई कम की, बिजली के दाम कम किए।
The Congress party, which was decimated in the last assembly polls, winning only 8 seats, claims it is now ready for polls.
कांग्रेस जो है वो एक कलेक्टिव लीडरशिप के रूप में हमेशा चुनाव लड़ती है, वैसे ही चुनाव जो है वो आज लड़ेगी।
The by-polls for 3 assembly seats scheduled for November 25th have now been cancelled. Anu Diwan's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
The Kashmir Valley is tense following the killing of 2 men in firing by the Indian Army. There was a complete shutdown of the valley today. Security has also been tightened in view of Muharram. Giving a political tinge to those killings, the Chief Minister of the state has said it has vitiated the atmosphere, and that too right before elections.
Deserted roads, shops keeping their shutters down. A complete shutdown observed in Srinagar protesting the death of 2 civilians in firing by the Indian Army. The state government also imposed curfew in many areas to avoid any untoward incidents on Muharram.
10 मुहर्रम पे ओवरऑल रिस्ट्रिक्शन होती है, बट इतनी रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं होती थी। गवर्नमेंट कोई चार्ज नहीं दे रही। कल जो किलिंग हुई है बड़गाम में, तो गवर्नमेंट कोई चार्ज, इसीलिए आज पूरा ट्रैफिक नहीं है, पूरा कश्मीर बंद रहेगा।
2 youths were killed in army firing after they did not stop at checkpoints in Budgam district on Monday. Army personnel opened fire after the 2 men crossed every checkpoint without stopping. The killings also took a political turn, with State Chief Minister Omar Abdullah saying that the deaths have vitiated the election atmosphere in the valley. He stressed that such incidents have no place in an improving security situation in the state.
The party yesterday itself appealed to the Election Commission to conduct a thorough, time-bound and transparent probe, or authorize the state government to do this. We obviously want to probe. We want to see if the SOPs were violated. We want the reality to be unveiled and justice to be done in this case.
Prime Minister साहब को कदम उठाना चाहिए और कश्मीर में जो कश्मीरियों की तकलीफ है, तो उसको दूर करने के लिए उनको सियासी, पॉलिटिकल इक़दामात उठाने चाहिए, इंटरवेंशन करना चाहिए।
The army meanwhile claims that the youths not only did not stop at 2 checkposts but also tried to break through a 3rd barrier. A court of inquiry has been initiated by the army. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, it's not just the Kashmir Valley. Even here, the national capital, Delhi, saw tight security as a precautionary measure during Muharram in different parts of the city. In Jammu and Kashmir, like we said, capital Srinagar witnessed a curfew, as is the case every year there.
For the first time in many years, Delhi observed Muharram under the cover of tight security. The focal point was Bhavana, where 1,000 policemen and paramilitary personnel were deployed.
11 साल के अंदर ये पहली बार जो हुआ है जो प्रशासन हमारे साथ है और इतनी भीड़ लगी हुई है।
तो मतलब ऐसा कोई कुछ विशेष कारण है या मतलब सिर्फ सुरक्षा है, कुछ ऐसा?
नहीं, विशेष कारण है।
क्या कारण है?
जो हमने खबर सुनी जो यहाँ आपस में दंगा फसाद कराने वाले हैं उनको लेकर के जो है ये मामला हुआ है।
The huge police presence in Bhavana came after a Mahapanchayat on Sunday, where speakers called for changes in the route of the Muharram procession. Security was equally tight in Kashmir, where curfew was imposed in a few areas. Muharram processions are banned in Srinagar since 1989. Only small rallies and processions are allowed in selected areas with limited Shiite populations. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The CBI today made 3 high-profile arrests in connection with the 20,000 crore chit fund scam in Odisha. Biju Janata Dal Lok Sabha MP Ramchandra Hansta, former BJP MLA Hitesh Kumar Bhagarthi and former BJD MLA Subarna Naik were all taken into custody for their alleged involvement in the scam. They're charged with criminal conspiracy, cheating and diversion of funds. Last week, the CBI had arrested ruling BJD MLA Pravat Tripathi in this case. The CBI is investigating leads against 40 companies accused of running chit fund schemes in Odisha. All the other news that made the headlines across the country in Nationwide. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has invited public suggestions on ways to address drug addiction in the country. He says those who don't want to share that information in public may write to him personally. Modi has also asked NGOs to share their experiences. Union Transport and Shipping Minister Nitin Gadkari has ruled out demolishing the Ram Setu while implementing the Setu Samudram shipping canal project. After an aerial survey of the area, he said it would be done without harming the environment. The 13th Haryana Assembly unanimously chose Jagadhari MLA Kanwarpal Gujjar as the Speaker on the first day of its maiden session. Two-time MLA Kanwarpal's name was proposed by Parliamentary Affairs Minister Ramvilas Sharma and was seconded by Finance and Industries Minister Captain Abhimanyu. All right, quick break here in the program. When we come back, our special focus on the news tonight. The Pentagon has reinforced what India has been saying all along, that the Pakistani army uses terrorist proxies to undermine India's security interests. That story and a detailed discussion when the news tonight returns. Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Time for some diplomatic stories now. And after years of crying hoarse about terrorism, particularly terrorism emanating from Pakistan, aided and abetted by the Pakistani establishment, India can today finally say, "We told you so." The Pentagon in the United States, in its semi-annual report to Congress, has reinforced what India has been saying all along, and that is that Pakistan uses terrorist proxies to take on India in an asymmetric war, which undermines India's security interests in the region.
Finally, some reinforcement for India's long-held stand on terrorism. India today described the Pentagon's report that Pakistan was using militant groups as proxies to counter the superior Indian military as growing acknowledgement globally of the extent of the problem. In a blunt assessment of terrorist safe havens in Pakistan, the Pentagon told the US Congress that Afghan and India-focused militants continue to operate from Pakistani territory to the detriment of Afghan and regional stability. Pakistan uses these proxy forces to hedge against the loss of influence in Afghanistan and to counter India's superior military. Reactions have been pouring in. Minister of State for Home Kiran Rijiju says this report helps reinforce India's position on terrorism globally.
सबको पता है पहले से पाकिस्तान में तो एक पॉलिसी रहा है स्टेट स्पॉन्सर्ड टेररिज्म का, उसका इफेक्ट वो हिंदुस्तान को तो हो ही रहा है.
And the MEA had this to say.
You know, for long we have held that the issue of terrorism should not be segmented, and if the international community is now welcoming and acknowledging the fact that terrorism derives support from Pakistan, it is something that we welcome, because this is our view for a long time, that we do not need to segment terrorists, but to focus on terrorism as an evil scourge against whole of mankind.
The report runs into more than 100 pages and doesn't carry much legal weight. Few in the strategic community think this report would lead to any radical change in the Pakistani military establishment's outlook.
It acquires greater relevance after the suicide attack at the Wagah border. Now, whether this will make any difference to Pakistan, as an analyst, again, I would say I remain skeptical.
The US-led NATO forces will be withdrawing from Afghanistan by the 31st of December this year. Another reminder that India will have to depend on itself for its security needs within the wider region. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
So this report does carry some weight, but it doesn't necessarily need to have any kind of impact. We want to look beyond this report, particularly what's happening on the India-Pakistan front, as well as what's going to happen in the next couple of months as NATO troops draw down from Afghanistan. What does that mean for India and the wider region? Dr. Matthew Joseph is from the Jamia Millia Islamia. He's now joining us here on the news tonight. Thanks for joining us. I want to first get your thoughts on this report. The predictable reaction from the Indian side, whether it's the External Affairs Ministry or whether it's the Home Affairs Ministry, has been, well, we've told you so. This is our long-held position. Now the Americans are reinforcing it. Beyond the predictable reactions that we've got, does this move the needle in any way for the Indian position to get further reinforced across the globe?
It is nothing new as far as India's point of view is concerned, because this has been what we have been saying for quite some time, that Pakistan is using terror proxies to counter India's military, India's strategic interest in this region. But when Pentagon endorses it or American establishment endorses it, our claim is basically getting legitimized. That is exactly the point. So into international community, now we can very confidently say that this is what we have been saying for quite some time. Now even United States has accepted this, because United States is supposed to be one of the closest ally of Pakistan over a period of time. So even then they have to accept this fact that, you know, this particular situation leads to instability in this region.
But what's the fallout, Doctor? Because the point is, it's not like this report is suddenly going to make the Pakistani military establishment suddenly change tack in a policy which it's been following for the last 20 plus years. The Americans are going to be leaving Afghanistan in the next couple of months, so they can turn around and say that, look, this is your mess. You can figure out a way to fix it. The point is, how does this move India's position forward? Does this really change anything at all?
I don't think so. It is not going to change anything on the ground, because, you know, see, when NATO troops, Western troops leave from Afghanistan, India will be completely left with its own measures to deal with the situation. That's one. Second thing is that the only thing right now is to get some kind of legitimacy for India's claim for over a period of time. Beyond that, Pakistan's position is not going to change. The modality through which they operate this proxy war, that is also not going to change.
And this proxy war has been happening earlier in the month of October as well. There was exchange of fire across the border. The only difference that we saw this time was the government of India had apparently given a tit-for-tat, measure-for-measure response. I want your thoughts, your assessment on this response. What difference has it brought about? Has it brought about any difference at all, both at a tactical level as well as at a strategic level?
I think that particular kind of response has given some kind of advantage for India, because, you know, see, they have realized that there is a strong government here, and that government has a kind of majority which previous government was not having, and a kind of political consensus has emerged, you know, to deal with Pakistan strongly. That has sent a very serious message to Pakistan that it is not easy to take India in that way. So I think in the near future, that will be a very important message for Pakistan not to take that kind of initiative as far as, you know, border skirmishes are concerned.
But very quickly, doesn't that play straight into the hands of the Pakistan army? This is exactly what they want India to do.
definitely, that is the only, in long term, the strategic outcome would be like that. The political forces, democratic forces in Pakistan is going to be on a weaker ground because, this kind of a situation will only strengthen the army's position. Okay. And similarly, in India also, a right-wing reaction can also take advantage of that particular kind of position. So that is the only casualty in that. In that sense, in longer term, it is not going to be very beneficial.
All right. Okay, I'm afraid we'll have to leave it at that because of the paucity of time. Thanks very much, Dr. Matthew Joseph from Jamia Millia Islamia, with his thoughts and perspective on this Pentagon report to the US Congress, which says that Pakistan has been long using terror proxies in a bid to undermine Indian as well as Afghanistan's security interests in the region. Talking about America, big story out of the States today, of course, is the midterm elections. It's going to pave the way for the 2016 presidential polls as well. The Republicans need to gain just 6 seats to take control of the Senate. That's one of the chambers of the US Congress. The Democrats have a battle on their hands to stay ahead. President Obama's approval ratings have fallen to the lowest despite improvements in the economy recently.
After a hectic day of campaigning, both Republican and Democratic parties are eyeing victory in the midterm polls. The race is tight in at least 10 states, including North Carolina, Colorado, and Alaska.
I want to see the Republicans take some control.
It doesn't play well if one party has both houses and doesn't want to serve the entire public. So I am a little worried about that.
Trends so far are favoring the Republicans. Democrats currently hold a 5-seat majority in the Senate, which means Republicans need to win only 6 seats to take control. The White House said a key factor driving the election was frustration with the Washington, D.C.
I think this is true even in non-election years, particularly the last couple of years, that there is intense frustration on the part of the electorate with the failure of Washington, D.C. To put in place policies that are helpful to middle-class families.
Voters will elect 36 senators, all 435 members of the House of Representatives, and 36 state governors. Strength of the U.S. economy, along with worries about Ebola and Islamic State militants, are major concerns. Obama might face strong pressure to make changes at the White House if his party loses across the board. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
If the Republicans gain control of the Senate, 2 things are certain. The rest of the Obama presidency becomes lame duck. And more importantly, it throws huge questions at a potential Hillary Clinton run for president in 2016. Well, one country that the United States seems to be concerned about and topmost on its priority area is Iraq, where security forces are on high alert. More than 1 million Shia Muslims gathered at shrines and mosques across the country for Ashura, which is the 10th day of Muharram. Iraqi Kurdish Peshmerga fighters, meanwhile, have been bombarding IS targets in Kobani. They're hoping to turn the tide in the battle for this besieged town, which has been going on for months now. Meanwhile, French President François Hollande says both Canada and France must not back down in the fight against the Islamic State.
Religious fervor in Iraq on the 10th day of Muharram. Ashura was observed under heavy security in the shadow of Islamic State threat. Security forces guarded even the top of mosques. Even the holy month offered little respite from the intense clashes between Kurdish forces and Islamic State militants. Gunfire and explosions were heard in Syrian-Turkish border town of Kobani. The Iraqi government also extended their support to Peshmerga Kurdish forces.
البيشمركة جزء من المنظومة الدفاعية العراقية والدعم مستمر وما للجيش للبيشمركة وما على الجيش على البيشمركة إن شاء الله تجي الأسلحة وننطيهم وحسابهم محسوب أسوة بالقطاعات العراقية الأخرى.
French President François Hollande meanwhile told Canada and France not to back down from the fight even when faced with terror threats.
La France, comme le Canada d'ailleurs, a décidé d'intervenir avec des frappes aériennes en Irak. Nous considérons que ces frappes sont nécessaires.
Latest video footage released by the British Defence Ministry showed military aircrafts destroying an Islamic State armed vehicle in a town in northwest of Baghdad. Canada fighter jets also made their first combat strike on Monday since joining the campaign against Islamic State fighters. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And more international stories in Global Buzz. 13 years after the 9/11 attacks in New York, the World Trade Center reopened for business today. Publishing giant Condé Nast became the first tenant in the gleaming 104-story building, which is also the tallest skyscraper in America. The $3.8 billion building took 8 years to build. It stands bang in the middle of the site where more than 3,000 people were killed when 2 hijacked planes slammed into the Twin Towers on the 11th of September 2001. Alexander Zakharchenko has been sworn in as the leader of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic. The weekend elections were denounced both by Kiev as well as by the West. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko has now threatened to scrap a law which gives special status to the eastern Donetsk and Luhansk areas. Under a truce that was agreed back in September, the regions were to hold Ukrainian-run elections in December. American investigators have found debris from Virgin Galactic's Spaceship Two scattered as far as 35 miles away from the main crash site. They're also not ruling out the possibility of pilot error, since the feathering system of the spaceship that slows down its descent was activated well before the craft reached appropriate speed. The fuel tanks are also intact, they hadn't blown up. In South Africa, prosecutors are appealing against the sentence given to Paralympic athlete Oscar Pistorius. Pistorius started serving a 5-year prison sentence for the culpable homicide of his former girlfriend, Reva Steenkamp. He's expected to be out in 10 months. Prosecutors say the sentence failed to consider the horrendous manner in which Steenkamp was killed. They're also appealing against his murder acquittal. All right, we're going to take a break here in the program. When we come back from one sportsman to another, the god of cricket is now turning author. Sachin Tendulkar is out with his new book, and already he's targeting former Team India coach Greg Chappell. We'll get you the controversy when the News Tonight returns. Welcome back to the News Tonight. Time now for some sports stories. Sachin Tendulkar is back in the limelight. The god of cricket is now taking a shot at the written word. His autobiography, Playing It My Way, will be released tomorrow. And already it's making waves. Sachin has targeted former Team India coach Greg Chappell, saying that he sought to divide and rule.
Oh, that's a great shot again.
This was the signature shot of Sachin Tendulkar, the batsman. The straight drive.
Oh, shot.
Now, Sachin Tendulkar, the author, is not playing it so straight. He's dropped a bombshell in his autobiography, Playing It My Way, due for release Thursday. And the target is this man, former India coach and Aussie legend Greg Chappell. Sachin discloses in his book that just months before the 2007 World Cup, Greg Chappell came to his home and persuaded him to take over as captain from Rahul Dravid. Tendulkar is scathing in his criticism of Chappell, who was the national coach from 2005 to 2007, describing him as a ringmaster who imposed his ideas on the players. Sachin seems to be getting some support from his fellow players. Harbhajan Singh, someone who had equally frosty ties with Chappell, says,
देखिए जो सचिन कह रहे हैं वो बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं क्योंकि ग्रेग चैपल एक ऐसे इंसान थे जिनके दो फेस थे वो कहते हैं कि दोगले आदमी मैं कहूँगा वो दोगले इंसान थे वो हमें कुछ कहते थे बाहर मीडिया में कुछ बोलते थे और बीसीसीआई को कुछ बोलते थे.
And far away in Melbourne, Greg Chappell defended himself, putting out this statement. While I don't propose to get into a war of words, I can state quite clearly that during my time as Indian coach, I never contemplated Sachin replacing Rahul Dravid as captain. Meanwhile, Sachin's explosive revelations are getting a mixed reaction. While some say he should have flagged these issues earlier, others reckon this is just a way to sell his book.
I fail to understand why so late. I think it should have been protested there and then. As far as the inside information was concerned, we all knew that A lot of people were at loggerheads with Great Chapel.
वो तो किताब बेचने के तरीके हैं और मुझे समझ नहीं आया कि उन्होंने कोई नई चीज लिखी थी हर आदमी किसी ना किसी को क्रिटिसाइज करेगा
Playing It My Way releases this Thursday, and even before it's officially out, we can be sure of one thing. Just like Sachin the cricketer, this too will be a bestseller. Bureau Report, Rajya TV. And you better grab a copy as soon as you can, because that's going to be off the shelves before you even know it. That's a wrap of the news tonight. As we wrap up, we leave you with some amazing pictures. Daredevil wire walker Nick Wallander broke 2 world records Sunday with 2 high wire walks between Chicago skyscrapers. He did that without a net or a harness. Enjoy these pictures. Don't try this at home. We'll catch you again tomorrow night, same time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.